Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a few bales for polymer clay pieces. So here are my examples. So the easiest one, I'm going to start with that. So the easiest one by far is to just use a pinch bale. And here's an example of one, where you essentially make your pendant, put a little drill hole through the top and then use a pinch bale. Very easy and quite effective on some pieces, but for other pieces it's not really going to work for the design. But if you're making gifts or small simple pieces like the starfish with a little chain to connect it to, this is a very effective way of doing it. So let me show you how to do that quickly. So here is an example of a pendant that would work really well for this technique. It's really small, it doesn't need anything really big or large to draw attention to it. It just needs something to hang by. So you'll grab a drill and just drill a hole, and do it probably about 1 millimeter from the edge of your bead. You don't want to be doing it any closer than that. Okay, and just make sure that you drill that hole nice and clear. Then you're going to need some sort of a pinch bale, and you can get these off of AliExpress, you can get them off of my Etsy shop, Jessama Design, you can get them off Fire Mountain Gems. There's lots of places you can get them. And all you want to do, I might need to open it a little bit more. What we want to do is position those spoke, one of them at least, inside the hole, and then gently pinch. I'll just use the pliers to help with it. There we go. And so now you've got a nice pendant that you can string onto a chain or a piece of cord if you want, and you can see it moves around nicely. It doesn't distract too much from the bead or anything like that. So that is the easiest way to go. So if you're looking for a really easy, not complicated way to make a bale, that's a really easy way to go. The next one I'd recommend is using a hole as a bale. Now this isn't as easy as the other one because it now starts to affect your design. So if your design won't work with a hole, for instance this one, you can't just be putting a hole right in the middle there for no apparent reason. Your design actually needs to need it in your design. So if you can put a hole in your design and it will add to your design, then that's a great way to go with a bale. And so I'm just going to show you how to do that. So I've got a piece of clay here, and so let's pretend that this is your piece, and you're just going to give it a light texture quickly. Now of course I'm just using this as an example. This isn't actually how you would make your piece. Your piece will be a lot more complicated than this, but let's say now this is your finished veneer. You've textured your back, you've got the front all nice and clean, and you want to start cutting out your pendant. So let me grab a cutter. So you'll just grab your first cutter, and actually what I like to do, if I can, is I like to take my cutter and cut out the hole first. That's the bit that is going to get taken away. So I'm just going to use my craft knife to remove that. And then you're going to position this in such a way that you're going to create a hole. Now you can do this in multiple ways, depending on the shape that you're doing. With a round, you can position it right at the top like so, or you can position it right in the middle. With a square like this, you could position it with the hole at the top. You could position it so that you're almost going to hang it like a diamond, or you could position it right in the middle. I'm going to position it like a diamond. And then you'll just cut out. And this is why I like to have the hole first. It means that it's a lot easier for me to make sure that my piece is symmetrical. But there we are. That is how you would create a hole. Then you would bake that, sand it, varnish it and everything until you have a finished piece like this, and then you can see that it is very easy to use it as a bale. Just get that out of the way. So let me just show you how to take a donut like this and turn it into a bale. You'll just grab your cord, fit it through. I believe I'm doing it the right way around. Yes, I am. There we go. And then you can position a bead there if you want or if you don't want. So it's a really easy, versatile way of making a hanging point in your piece. So that is the second easiest bale to do. The next one that I think is pretty easy is positioning a bale on top of the pendant. And again, the design needs to call for this. So for instance, a design that wouldn't work for this is this one over here. A bale at the top just wouldn't really work for that one. And a bale at the top, this one, it could work, but it's not the best choice of design. So again, with all of these bales, they need to work for your design. So the way you would do this is you would actually bake your piece. So let us pretend that this is our baked pendant. The back's been sanded, front's been sanded, side's been sanded, it's all done. And all we want to do now is attach our bale. So I'll just put that to the side, and I'm going to grab some clay. And it doesn't matter what setting on your pasta machine it's rolled out. My preferred setting is probably about 1 millimeter thick. But you can make it as thick as you want. I wouldn't go below 1 millimeter though. So I would keep it above or just at 1 millimeter. And all you're going to do is you're going to trim out a piece of clay like this, and depending on how wide you want your bale, you can make this thinner or thicker. That's going to dictate how wide or how thin your bale is. Okay, the next thing you need to think about is how thick you want your bale. You can use a skewer, which in this case is going to make a fairly thin bale, so that is how, sorry about the blurriness, that is how thick your bale is going to be, and that's going to be how thick your cord can be that goes through. Whereas with this one, where it's a straw, it's much thicker. So in this case, I use the straw, so I can fit probably around a 3 millimeter thick cord through there. And I'm going to show you how to make a thin one, which would only be able to fit probably around a 2 millimeter. But for all of them, no matter how or what thing you use to wrap around, it's all the same process. So you'll just wrap it around and then bring it back, and you'll be able to see a little marked area over there. You want to trim by that marked area, then bring that back around, and you can texture your bale if you want, completely up to you. Just at this join point, this is the point where you're going to have it touch the pendant, so you're not going to be able to see that. You want to just gently smooth out that seam. Okay, and then you can very easily take it off of a wooden skewer. Press and press, and there's one way of making a little tube. There's another slightly better way of making a tube, but it can be a little fiddly. Let me just show you how to do that quickly. Just trim, trim. Okay, so you can make this longer if you want. And we're going to wrap that around a skewer. And again, you can use any piece of round equipment to make your bale. Completely up to you. But there we are, wrap it around. Trim at that little marked point, wrap around again, and smooth out that seam. Very important to do that. Okay, and then just give it a quick roll, and this will loosen it from your object that you have used. So you can see we can move that around, and now because we have a nice thick piece here, we can actually use our blade to trim one end, figure out how thick we want our bale, and then trim the next one, and this generally ends up with a much neater bale. So you can see that comes out a lot neater around the edges. So I'd recommend doing that. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take that, put it back onto your device that you used to create it. Then we want to figure out the middle point piece, and then gently press down our bail and remove our skewer, and or whatever piece we're doing. And I don't get that one completely symmetrical, but you get the idea. I would spend a bit more time measuring all this out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to apply some liquid clay. Okay, so I centered it a bit more because that was driving me mad that it wasn't quite in the middle. And again, I would spend a while doing this. I'm going through it fairly quickly because it's not a real piece, but you would want to spend a good amount of time making sure that you get it in the right spot, and that you don't have fingerprints and things like that. Then you would take your liquid clay and apply it on the front here, and I tend to use translucent liquid clay. Any brand will work. You can use Fimo Gel, Kato liquid clay, Sculpey translucent, even Bacon Bond will work. Bacon Bond probably isn't the best simply because it's not the most translucent. I prefer to use Kato for the most part. But there we are. That is your bail. Then you would go and bake that, and because the liquid clay is there, it's giving it an even more secure position. Then you could give it a quick sand, give it a quick buff, and that would be your piece. So let's have a look at that one more time. Here we are. You can see that this one has been centered. You can see just a little bit of liquid clay around here. If I point it out, let me see if I can point that in the right direction. But you've got a little bit of liquid clay there. And I got a little bit of liquid clay here as well, but I also put some resin on, so that gives an even better join. And also what you can do if you want to is you can take your skewer while this is still raw and scrape this so that it goes straight onto the border. So that is how to create that bail. And now the next one is also very similar, and it's this sort of bail where we don't put it on the front, but we actually put it on the back. The tube is created the exact same way. There are just some slight differences. So let me bring over another one of these, and I'll just grab that other tube that we made. You'll insert it onto your device, and then you would spend some time making sure that it's symmetrical, and you want to have it fairly close to the top of the pendant, not so close that you can see it, but I'd probably say about 2 millimeters below the top of your bead. Then you would press that down, and just like the other one, you can press on these edges like so to secure it a bit more. Okay, and then as always, you will always add liquid clay. Liquid clay is a great way to secure your clay. So whenever I'm doing these bails, if I can, I will always add liquid clay. And I tend to use translucent. If I have a black backing and it won't make any difference, I will sometimes use black liquid clay, but when in doubt, translucent is the best. And just add a little bit around each of those seams, like so. And this is really great for bails that are sitting on a textured back. A flat back, they have quite a bit more area to stick to, but if you have a textured back, there's not much area to stick to, so you really want to put that liquid clay on. But you can see that's a really easy way of creating that bail, and the tube is created the exact same way as we did with this one. Okay, so that was really easy. Okay, and those are the really easy bails that I would recommend starting with. The next few are a little bit more on the tricky side. Now this one I just want to explain. I can't really show you how to do it, so I'll be leaving a link to this tutorial in the links below the video. But essentially what you do is you create your polymer clay piece. This is wire, so just to take out the silver bit, you would create your polymer clay piece. Then just before you bake it, you would sculpt your wire piece. You would want to have it squiggling across your bead or going straight across your bead. All you need to know, is that it needs to be across the surface of your bead, and there needs to be a loop at the top. That is all you need to do. You can have a little tail that really does finish off quite nicely, but basically you just need it to be somewhat across your bead. It doesn't even need to be the whole way. You could have a little loop going around here, and then it comes into a loop at the top. So you would sculpt your wire, then you would place that on your raw clay, gently press so that it makes a mark, take off the metal, bake your piece, sand it, buff it, whatever you need to do, and then pop your wire back down like I did here. I added a little bit of Lisa Pavelka's Polybond to hold it there, and then I put a coat of resin over the top. So this technique only works if you're going to be putting resin over the top of your bead, because that is the only thing that is holding this wire in place. And it holds it really nice and securely, so you don't need to worry about it or anything like that. But that's the only thing that's really going to hold it in place and look really nice, because if you put glue on this, it would show up quite a bit and it just wouldn't look that nice. So if you're going to use this technique, it must be with resin. And then you'll create this loop up here, and it's a really nice easy bail. So I just wanted to explain that one because I can't exactly show that. And now the next one that we are going to do is this one, where it's an adjustable necklace. So all you have to do is slide this little bead up and then slide the pendant up. You can see it closes it. You can slide that all the way down. You can pop that over your neck and then adjust it so that it is just right. So this is a really nice, interesting bail if you want a necklace that you don't have to have any clasps or findings on. All you need are some beads at the bottom and some knots. So here is how we do it. So you can see there. So let me show you how to do that on a piece. Just grab one of these again, and I have created 4 little tubes like we did before, exact same way as the last 2 pendants. And all we can do, and now depending on how long your piece is, you want to have either just 2 like that, because this piece is too short for more than that, or if your piece is a little bit longer, you would position it so that there are 2 like so. And the reason for that is you want your piece to sit flat, so almost like a little coffee table. So if your piece is too long, you're going to need 2 of them, but if it's a short piece like this, you can just take 2 of them, and if you can balance that without it going all wonky, that is what you want. So for this one, we only need 2. So grab your 2 tubes, place them together like so, pop them in the middle of your bead. You don't want them either too far from the top, or you want them equal ways from the top and the bottom. Grab the tool that you use to make them, press down, like so, and then again, just like always, we will be using liquid clay. So you can see it, these aren't too difficult, they kind of just go a step up from each other, but all in all, they're all fairly easy to pull off. It's more about having the idea and having it tie into the design of your piece, because sometimes your piece needs a bail to complete the design. Sometimes the bail needs to be hidden because it's going to disrupt the design. Sometimes it's about how you string your piece. So I'll bring back over that other one in just a minute. So anyway, you would just pop the liquid clay on like that, and then you would bake it just like that. Really easy. And now another thing that I need to just warn you about is with all of these pieces, apart from this one because it's at the top, any bail that is at the back of your piece, you need to be baking it with the bail side facing up, because otherwise it will get squished. So just wanted to point that out. Now again, onto that matter of bales making the design. This one, if I had placed a bale at top here, I wouldn't be able to have these little string cords down here. I wouldn't be able to have this little bead, so we'd essentially just have this bead on its own hanging on a cord. And you can imagine that although it would look nice, it just won't look as nice as this finished piece. So before you put any bales onto your piece, you want to make sure that it is tying into the design and completing the entire thing. Like for instance, this donut. It just wouldn't really work with a bale right at the top. That it would look much better if we tied it from the hole, like so. And this one over here, if we hid the bale at the back, it would be missing something. So you just need to be thinking about that when you're creating these bales. Now, this is another method, and now I'm showing you a unfinished piece because I want to show you how it looks from the back. So hopefully you can see here, what I've done is I've done a backing and then I've left a little strip and I've curled it over into a tube. So hopefully you can see there's a line, the line goes and goes around. And that's a fold over bead, and it's quite a nice way to just tie off the back. So let me show you how to do that quickly. Grab one of these again and a sheet of clay. And here is our sheet of clay. Now the sheet of clay can be anything you want. You could do a fancy texture, you could do a technique such as the mica shift that I have on the back of this piece. You could have it plain black like I have here. And all you do is you grab your piece, and the piece that you're going to be making the bale on needs to be already baked and sanded. And you'll just pop that onto the back. Grab a tissue blade, and now this generally doesn't work with round pieces. This technique only tends to work with pieces that have a straight line to them. So for instance, that bead that I showed you there, you can easily take a blade and just continue the line, whereas with a round piece it won't do that. So you'll just cut out the backing like so. And I need to actually remove this. I'm just going to trim here. And then I'm going to use a skewer again. You can use anything you want. And all you're going to do is you're going to take whatever tool you want to create your tube. You're going to roll it around. Try and get that in the middle. Roll it around, and then have that stuck nicely. Then bring over your piece again and position it. Let me see if I can find a flatter one of these. Here we go. There we go. Position it down, and you can also rub liquid clay on the back of this. And there we are. You can see that we already getting it right. Then you want to just make a fuss of trimming around these sides correctly. Then grab this and just press it up against that piece, like so. And then again with the liquid clay. You always want to be adding some liquid clay. And again, in this case, I'll be using some translucent. Pour some of that out, and let me see if I can get this out. Well, with a little bit of work you can always get something that is wooden out, but if it doesn't want to, you can always just bake it with the skewer or whatever it is in it. So whenever you're doing this, making these bales, always make sure that whatever you're using to make the bales is oven safe. Because if the clay does not want to come out of it in one piece without getting squished, you can always bake it. But if you're using something that is plastic and that is going to melt in the oven, you're not going to be able to get a nice even piece. So always make sure that it's either wooden or metal or something you can put in the oven. So just make sure that you do that, because otherwise you can encounter some issues. But there we are, you can see it's really easy to make. Then you would just pick that up and you're going to have some gaps around the side. Oops, touch the liquid clay there. You're going to have some gaps around the sides. All you would do is you would bake that, and then have a look at my Jessama smear video, and in that video I show you how to clean up sides like this. But there we are, you can see that that's a really nice easy way of creating a fold over bale, and these are really nice for ones that you want to do some sort of a technique with, like a mic shift or a watercolour or something of that sort. So that is basically it for today's video on bales. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please do let me know in the comments below. I do have a few more bale ideas, and I will constantly be adding to my repertoire of bale ideas. So let me know if you like this tutorial, and I'll see about making a second video as soon as I can, if this one is popular with you guys. So let me know, and I will do that as quickly as I can. Let me know if you have any questions in the links below. Sorry, not the links below, the comments below, because I'm sure that some of you will have questions, so just ask. If you want links to the tutorials on the pieces that I have shown today, you can look in the links below, because I will also have links to all of these in tutorials. So, hope this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.